Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Flame On. It's live.
You hear everything good, squared away?
You are fantastic. You guys look amazing. We are
Thank
live.
you.
I'm going to introduce you guys. This is, so first of all, I'm Brian. Those of you who have never seen this before, I don't know, whatever. I am your host, Flame On. I am so happy today because this pandemic, this quarantine has been difficult for all of us. And one of the things that gives me the most pleasure since I discovered this exciting channel on Twitch is Media Meltdown, and I'm here joined by their creators, Piranha and Franzia Kafka. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
We're so excited to be here.
It came to my attention, if you are not familiar with Media Meltdown, after your, or actually prior to your Dune, a drag show event. Was that a moment for you guys that you got a lot of very interested like parties and attention, or had you been slowly building up to that amazing moment?
It's a little both, I would say.
Yeah. You know, it's so weird. We did our thing as a real life party in San Francisco before we went digital. So in March, we did our very first show online on the 15th. Is that correct? Yes. On March 15th, which was the day before San Francisco announced that they were like doing the stay-at-home order. But as of that morning on the 15th, we were supposed to have a show at a bar. And that the bars were like, no, we're following all the city ordinances. We're small enough. We can't fit enough people to warrant having to shut down.
Yeah, and I think at that point, like the orders, it was like hour by hour, the orders were changing. And so it was like, I had gigs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that weekend. The Friday gig, it was $250 cap. The Saturday gig got canceled because it was at a bigger club. Going into Sunday, it was 100 cap, but I think this venue had like 97 for the fire code.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we found out just a couple hours before that show that we had to cancel. So we ended up like rushing, and luckily Franzia knew her way around some tech stuff. And we were able to end up doing that first show online. But I think for that one, we had like 60 people watching, which felt massive at the time.
Yeah, it was more than we had. Well, maybe not.
That's
the first
about,
one,
but when we did Nick Cage versus Jeff Goldblum, a drag show, that got pretty high numbers.
Yeah.
But most of the time we hovered around 50 when we did our IRL show. So it was a bit of a change. But then by the time we hit May, we had, or was it June? In May, we had Alaska Thunderfuck on our show, who's a friend of mine. And so that saw a spike in our numbers. And we did start to grow from there. But Dune was definitely an unexpected thrill ride. Yeah, a lot more people got turned onto us during that.
I only found out about it, I think, from my drag connections and whatnot. But I mean, it's been the thing with Flame On for forever, that there is this golden opportunity for really deep in the weeds nerds to do drag. And I know a lot of drag queens who are deep in the weeds nerds. In fact, one of them is here. Aphasia Speaks from the Scream Queens, how do you get that right, is here in the chat. And I'm like taking notes about nerdy performers so we can like reach out to them for bookings.
Message us.
Message us, please.
I have been telling Aphasia about you nonstop for months. She just did a Stream Queens number that is amazing on there. Oh gosh, I forgot. They had a show Saturday, and I cannot remember the name of it to save my life. But still, but so there's this amazing crossover of geek culture and drag. So much so that, like, you know, years ago we did this Drag is the New Spandex like series where we're like, oh my god, drag is like superhero costuming. Anyway, point is, you guys do this. You mine pop culture for its most amazing and bizarre and deep cut references that I am living for, and doing it in drag, and doing it in drag now in a way that is broadcast to everyone, not just to those fortunate souls in San Francisco. Yeah. So when you guys started this, like, what was the mission statement? How did you feel like Media Meltdown? Like, what was your core idea to build on there?
Well, maybe I could speak to this briefly, and if you want to break in at any point. So we kind of, both of us have always, I feel like, really thrived at theme shows, or at least me personally. I really struggle to be creative without a theme. I feel just like too unbounded. And my brain, I've like my ADHD just goes everywhere. And I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. And then nothing happens. So a theme's really useful for me to like pare down what I actually do want to do and kind of keep me in line with my own creative pursuit. So I've always really loved themed shows. And also as an audience member, it's nice to be able to go in and kind of know what you're getting to a certain extent. But then also, and this is such a silly thing, but, you know, we came up with this prompt one night in bed while we were high. Cause I think I was looking at a sponsored ad on Facebook, and it was at like the Balboa Theater, and it was this double screening, and I misread it. And I thought it was like a Nick Cage versus Jeff Goldblum screening or something. And then I reread it and I was like, oh no, it's not what it is. But then we were both like, wouldn't that be a fun drag show? Wouldn't that be just totally wild and bonkers and like not make any sense, but make all the sense?
And so when we threw that first one, I think the idea was just kind of a one-off thing.
Yeah. Oh, and also kings. We really wanted to celebrate a lot of the really talented drag kings in our city. Mm-hmm. And, you know, both of us do king drag pretty frequently. I recently have been doing it almost exclusively. And we were like, one of the things that's missing from theme shows is that almost all of them seem to be celebrating female artists, which is great, but it maybe doesn't leave as much space for kings to explore like more niche content or get conceptual and things like that. So,
and I think that, you know, with a lot of other drag shows, there's an emphasis on musical artists. It'll be like Cher night or, you know, Beyonce night or what have you. And those are all fun, especially if you're a fan of whoever that artist was. But I think that the idea of celebrating film and television more, or not exclusively, but I think that was kind of an initial thing too, of like, you never hear about them doing actors.
Yeah.
Right? There's not like an Uma Thurman night, even though...
Oh, that's pretty sick.
I know. We had talked about that one. But I feel like, you know, if you can have a Cyndi Lauper drag show night, but you're not going to see Whoopi Goldberg. But it's like, why not? There's so many fun roles, so many fun costumes, but then why limit it to actresses? Like so many drag shows, I feel like, would, or at least do in the Bay Areas, tend to lean more towards the ladies. I was like, it would be so much more fun and silly for everybody to get to do Nick Cage drag. And like, in San Francisco, I feel like there's not as much emphasis on gendered drag with a lot of people, but like we will book more people who primarily do queen looks to do a Nick Cage number still, and kings and everyone in between, all on the same bill, paying tribute to these people or ideas that you don't get to see very often. And that kind of spiraled into, what else can we do that's fun and playful that you haven't seen a lot of?
Yeah, and we because after we did the first one, and it was a one-off at the Stud, it was on like a Thursday night, and we were like, this is gonna be fun. And I think like 100 people showed up. It was actually massive.
For the Stud, or there was like 100 people there at any time. I feel like it was always pretty packed. Yeah.
But it was so we just kind of spiraled out from there. Sorry, now we're giving like the whole.
You are doing all of my job, and I am here for it. So I have a bunch of people in the chat who I have got to acknowledge.
Totally,
I mentioned Aphasia here. One of my good friends, Matt, is here, and I got him into your shows. We actually have for Flame on our own Discord, and we have a happy hour. And the last show, Modern Art, a drag show, we had a little happy hour while you guys were performing, and it was amazing. They're the ones who kind of like helped me shape my idea for the commission that I threw at you guys. So you know, it was lovely. Also, I gotta give some love to James. He loves the hair. It's great. And then I don't know who this is, but
Aziza. Hi.
I hope that they were one of yours. Yay, welcome. Matt.
We have Waziza's sugar actually right here that they sent us. This lovely maple sugar.
Oh, that's lovely. Oh, I love crafty queens. Matt also loved Live for Your Keith Haring, as we all did.
Oh my gosh, thank you so
Franzia,
much.
that was fantastic. NorCal Gamer, the Dune Drag Show got my attention, and I've been hooked to Media Meltdown ever since. I love that.
Yeah, and you've been super active in our chat too. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Of course. Oh, and the show was, by the way, Matt corrected me. Thank you. Unbothered was the Stream Queen show that they did. It was amazing.
Oh,
so good. Holly Graphic. I have become a fan of hers through you guys. And of course is here, you know.
Oh, if I can also just plug Holly real fast, because
Please.
Holly's one of our superstar moderators who really keeps things on lockdown and also designed all of our recent emotes for our channel. So we have those that we just uploaded for our last Cinema 420. Some of these like weird kind of like niche characters from like weirdo screenings that we did. So if you're looking for drag or illustration, definitely go check out Holly.
I'm gonna get sappy for 1 second about Holly.
Oh yeah, get sappy.
Because I feel like there's a larger overture to Media Meltdown that she's involved in that doesn't get brought up very often. She used to throw a party in San Francisco called Boob Tube, which was very similar to like the proto idea of Media Meltdown. That party had ended, I think, before we started or right around the same time.
Within a few months, I think.
Yeah. But they also had done really strange, fun concepts. My favorite of which was like SpongeBob versus Aquaman.
I was going to bring that one up too, where Punky Pebble dressed up like the pineapple under the sea.
And it was perfect. And I feel like that kind of like playful theme ideas was definitely an inspiration for us. But on a larger note, Franzia and I met at BoobTube, the very first one, and it's our 3-year anniversary today.
Oh yeah, today.
So we met 3 years ago today at that party, and that was kind of like a seed for Media Meltdown later on. So
oh my gosh, I am so thankful that you are spending your anniversary on this little podcast. Totally. But I wanted to actually talk about that. So you met at this party. And Franzia, I know only from, whatever, that you are also a fellow Floridian like myself.
Yes.
So, how did that all kind of come together? Were you both in drag personas when you met? What was that like? And I know you don't always talk about your being a couple, so I wasn't sure if that was something you wanted to get into, but I am interested, obviously, in how this all.
I only brought it up because it's a special day, but I don't mind.
No, we'll talk all day about it. We have a joke in our channel that like we're like roommates. I think it was because someone actually who knows that we're a couple was making a roommates joke, and it kind of spiraled from there. But
so I don't even think that they were thinking about it when they said it. The idea was just that like they knew that we were able to host together during COVID time. So it's like, oh, they must be roommates.
Yeah.
And it was a very casual conversation. I think they knew that we were a couple, but they hadn't known that we had moved in together because that had happened right before quarantine. And I'm glad that it did. Otherwise, Media Meltdown probably wouldn't have.
It would have been such a struggle.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as us that first day, I wasn't even doing drag when we met. So I had just started turning looks, but it was more like a Club Kids style, like a monster kind of.
Yeah, Edmund would make
whatever.
Yeah.
Franzia before starting doing drag would make these really wild looks and go out to parties.
Yeah, and I would just go out and party. And I then I kind of started go-go dancing, but that's a bit before I started doing drag, but that's a bit later.
No, I had a pretty packed night that night. I had gone from a housewarming party or a birthday party or some such earlier in the night from work to that party. And then I was back up in somebody else's number at the Monster Show, and then went from the Monster Show all the way to the Stud. Didn't get to the Stud until after BoobTube was pretty much over.
And so I was drunk. I was really, really drunk.
I missed the whole party pretty much, and it was already after midnight, and I...
there's a missing piece of story that I'm going to insert here before you continue.
Okay.
I was at the time on the Stud's pool team. So I would regularly go there to practice pool alone. And it was often nice because I would like meet people. They'd be like, oh, you want to play? And we'd play and it'd be fun. Continue.
But I was sitting at the bar chatting with a few friends, and Franzia was playing pool all by herself, and I was checking her out for sure, and then tried a trick shot that did not work. The ball plopped off the table. You've told me I'm lying about this part before, but I swear that's how it happened. And the ball went rolling, and I laughed, and then Franzia looked at me finally and asked if I was laughing at her. And then we started talking, and I can't tell you about what though.
Oh, I can.
I know Brian Eno got brought up at one point.
Yeah, I had jokingly said to myself, because I'm kind of like a serial long-term relationship person, and I had gotten out of like a very long-term relationship within like the last year, and it was like a very fraught kind of like, not like anything bad, but like my partner had cancer, and like there was a lot of healthcare stuff and like caretaking and whatnot. So I got out of that. I'm like, I'm just gonna cruise around, and I'm just gonna like hook up and have fun. But I was like, I jokingly said to myself, like, what's my criteria for like wanting to date someone? And again, I'm like, well, they would have to like Brian Eno. And so I remember saying to you, there was some conversation, and I said like, yeah, I was just like listening to this album earlier, like Another Green World, and you were like, oh, I love that album. Like, I think I prefer Taking Tiger Mountain, but like,
I do.
but like that album's great. And then I was like done. And like, I think at that point I like wrote on my arm in like Sharpie, like, friend this person on Facebook tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Like,
it was already pretty late by the time we started talking, and then we talked until they kicked us out of the bar. I had also just fairly recently got out of a relationship, but I wasn't as much of a serial dater as you. I had decided that day, I was like, I'm over it. I'm going to go out in the town and get some digits, maybe get laid. I definitely was not planning on falling in love.
How many digits though?
How many
digits for each one?
All the digits, right?
Yeah. Like,
so, I mean, first of all, let me just say, I love you guys. I love you even more that you fell in love with Brian Eno, because Brian Eno is one of my favorite musicians of all time.
Brian, if you're listening, hit me up.
You can find us on social media at Media Meltdown SF.
We're in an open relationship. I'll do anything. Like,
well, no, hey. I do want. So here's the thing. So it's very weird. Our lives are oddly parallel because both of us from Florida, right?
Yeah.
I moved out here to be with my partner. We moved in right before the pandemic in Seattle, where we're located now. And we're also into drag, although I have never done drag, though it's definitely getting a lot closer these days than it used to be. Aphasia actually is my maybe drag mother who's going to show me the ropes. But
we'll book you for something. If you commit, you can have a booking.
Well, yeah. I would love nothing more. So I want to get to this too, because the style of drag that you have on Media Meltdown is very not unique. I used to think it was unique, but I'm finding a lot more of the virtual drag community. I'm sort of understanding all of it better. But you guys are my gateway into it. But like, I want you guys to come to Seattle so bad in the after times when COVID is not a thing. I will do whatever I need to do to find you bookings here. You have a place to stay. I know a bunch of crazy queers here, so you're going to have an amazing time. If you've probably been to Seattle already, right? I feel like you guys would probably have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I lived in Portland for several years.
There you go. So 100%.
Before times, I used to travel up every summer and do Golden Girls Live for the last few years,
no way.
And stay for a few days doing that. So friends with a handful of Seattle performers as well.
Oh my gosh. You got it shouldn't surprise. It doesn't surprise me. But anyway, I love all this. So Media Meltdown, for those people who have not seen it, and we have more people in the chat I'm going to come back to. I don't want to forget about our friends in the chat. But Media Meltdown, if you've not seen it on Twitch, which I actually have a link, even though it's not clickable. I wish they'd figure that out. But your channel has different events throughout the week. Is it normally Tuesdays that's Cinema 420, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And that's at 7:30 Pacific, I think.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And we've for those who are listening, we've been having some really bad internet issues at our house lately.
We're moving though.
We're moving soon. But in case anyone tuned in, I think 2 out of the last 3 we had some internet issues. We've got that sorted. We're going to be hosting it through my work's internet connection, so we shouldn't have any of those issues moving forward. But yeah, 7:30 p.m. PST.
For everybody who hasn't watched our show yet, just so you know, busted.
It's busted, but don't be worried. We're fixing it.
Oh my gosh.
let me sell it for you guys. When you are, if you're a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000, or if you're a fan of Cinema Titanic, or what's the Riff Tracks, any of these properties where they like have the sort of like the Chiron at the bottom, and they're kind of enjoying the movie with you, that's what Cinema 420 is. But really interesting deep cuts. I think Mystery Science Theater, I'm guessing, was an influence for you both, right?
We're both big fans.
Of course. And you riff, which I actually kind of like. You riff in the comments with the rest of the audience, so it's actually very interactive. It's not like you're dominating it, but you also add your own touch by being down there in the lower third, but also do drag numbers.
It's so much nicer this way because some of our audience members are actually funnier than we are.
Oh, they're way funnier.
And really are great about keeping it up. So we can just kind of chill. That's what keeps us coming back every week to do
jokes.
it. Well, and their energy, you know, we've got a really nice, oh my God, somebody's at our house. There is a really nice energy around the community for that show that we really appreciate, and it feeds us as much as we hope that we're giving back to them. So yeah, definitely, if it wasn't for, if we ever were going to be an actual TV show a la MST3K, I would hire some of these people as staff writers.
Oh, absolutely.
Immediately. Because I feel like they're equally entrenched into kind of what Cinema 420 is. So I don't think it would work without that interactive element.
Yeah, and I think also like a fun place where we've started to take Cinema 420, because like bouncing off the Mystery Science Theater kind of correlation, you know, one of my favorite things about Mystery Science Theater isn't just the riffs, but it's like their weird sketch comedy that they would do between I completely forgot that we were going to show that like weird like Swedish conceptual play thing for modern art.
Oh, I didn't forget, but I want to save it for something else.
Okay,
We'll talk about it
later. And we about maybe like 3 months into doing Cinema 420, because we started it right at the start of quarantine. We started doing like intermission drag numbers, and both of us have full-time jobs, so we kind of found it to be a little overwhelming to do like a live.
It's hard enough when we're working until right before the show every Tuesday and then have to slap together a look.
And then plan a number and then have it all be like technically seamless.
Well, and it's more stuff to set up, because then you've got like maybe a green screen or a backdrop and another camera and another set of lights. Yeah. And so we can't do it every week. We do try to, but we've started also booking other performers as well to kind of ease the load. So there's a degree of the MST3K kind of skit stuff that informed our decision about that. Like, let's have a performance, a comedy performance of some kind by us or another drag performer that kind of reflects the tone or stupidity of whatever we're watching.
It is brilliant, and I love that you guys have that as a reference, because the shorts are my favorite. Well, so there's the shorts that they riff on, and then there's the segments, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful. So I don't want to forget your other shows too. So monthly Media Meltdown shows on Sundays, typically at 7:30 as well, I believe, right?
Yeah, third Sundays we do our big monthly show.
And I have the promo art for the show coming up, so we're going to tease that, but we're definitely going to talk about that, because I need to know a little more. It's a very specific topic.
I'll hold back getting into it.
We're going to get into that though. And then the other shows, I actually just started watching the cooking show with Hennessy.
Yeah.
Hennessy Williams.
That is delightful. We were actually I threw the link up in our Discord, and I was like, "There's a drag cooking show that it's straight. The parts that I saw. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it's very much a straight up cooking show. It just happens to be hosted by drag, and I love that. I think that's beautiful and amazing and perfect."
Yeah, I love the idea of having Media Meltdown not just be us. So we put out a ask a while ago to different producers. To see if people were interested in partnering with us. You know, we have a certain amount of followers and subscribers, and so it's helps newer shows to kind of have that platform, something that they're not having to foster themselves on like a weekly basis. And we've ended up having a great group of outside performers who we were all friends with before quarantine coming together and producing stuff on our channel. And Hennessy Show is definitely one of our one of our faves.
And then I was about to pull it up. I'm gonna misquote. What is the Friday dance show called?
Studio 51, the Club Kid Rave.
That was spectacular.
That is more of a drag show than it is a dance show necessarily, but they have like an alien sci-fi Club Kid aesthetic, and the numbers do tend to be a little bit more, I would say, dancey, but and there's a great DJ set at the top of every show. So,
but just also a visual feast. Like that show is like, if you have any interest in like Club Kid aesthetics or space anything, everyone always brings it super hard. And what I love about that show too is that because the theme is basically like space Club Kid, it's pretty broad, but that also means it's like very accessible to like almost any drag performer. And so they often get like a really cool mix of like dancing queens with comedy kings with like other performers who are bringing all this different stuff to the table, but it's visually cohesive, so it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, Nitrix books out a pretty diverse group of performers, but they all tend to be really strong. That show, I said this on social media when I'm promoting it, but like the last several have just been constantly getting stronger and stronger, and we actually like have found several performers that we've ended up booking for our main show through Nitrix's because she books such great people, and we really see them like pull out the stops for her. So it's always a good sign when I love having that little bit of a partnership where we can watch each other's shows and find new and interesting performers that might fit our vibe.
Yeah, and I was going to ask about that. So thus far, you seem to have curated like some amazing performers from within the community in San Francisco, but also all over that you connect to. Like, what's the best way to sort of find those performers and for them to find you?
I mean,
well, let me answer the second part first, because that's much easier.
All of you out there who are nerds.
Anybody who wants to perform at Media Meltdown, it's very simple. We have a link tree on our Instagram. And if you follow it, we put in a expression of interest form that people can fill out. And I think we've booked pretty much everybody who's contacted us through that. And the reason we love the form is because people can link us to their Instagram if they have any videos of other stuff that they do, or just let us know what kind of stuff you're into. Because we do stuff like Dune, a drag show, it's really hard sometimes to reach out to performers when you're like, I don't know if they've read Dune. I don't know if they've seen the Lynch movie.
I was literally in like Instagram going like hashtag Dune drag, hashtag Dune queer, hashtag
there's
like
not
Dune
much.
cosplay. Like Dune cosplay pulled up some stuff, but you know, one of the things with that too is that like a lot of people who are incredible look performers often don't like doing performances, like full constructed like videos. So it can be hard, but yeah, if you're into any of this stuff, fill out that form. And like
we book pretty much everybody. I mean,
especially with Cinema 420, now we basically have a booking every week that we can do. So.
Yeah. But as far as we find new performers, oh my gosh, it's
I started,
a variety of ways.
I started going through my head of like how we've found new performers, and it's really just a wild emotional roller coaster. Like I was thinking when you said that you wanted to do drag, or like you were thinking about starting to do drag, like doing a drag show was by far our most successful main show so far. That show had some like what I would consider pretty legendary talent in it, but also Leon McDuff, who had literally never done drag before.
Really?
And just got excited about they were a friend of ours, and they were like, I love Dune. Can I do a thing for that?
Yeah. And I was like, and this is like the Wednesday before the show, and I was like, do you think you can pull it together? And they were like, yeah, I think I can. So and their number was incredible. And so I was like,
and we have them booked again for February.
Yeah.
They're doing our upcoming show. So but we have somebody booked for our May show, which we did our very first one in May. So this is going to be our 2-year anniversary show of Media Meltdown. Wow. And we've got somebody booked for that who's never done, I would say, like a traditional drag performance. They don't have a drag name.
Yeah, it took me a second to think.
Yeah,
realize who you're talking
about. Well, that's the thing I am interested in, because I followed drag for a long time. I've Orlando Parliament House. You know, like I was steeped in the middle of that drag
We've been to Parliament
We've been
House
to-
together.
Finish your thought, but can we tell you our story about Parliament
Oh,
House
you
when you're
will,
done?
because they, of course, you probably follow that they
I
closed.
heard that they closed. Yeah.
So my ex was the photographer and the Bear Den event manager and did all the bear events. Pat O'Rourke from Bears in the City.
Incredible.
And so I got to just be front stage, behind the scenes, all of the local drag. I know all of the queens locally, all the Rue girls that came through, all of that. So I've been really steeped in like drag in the last 10 years. But here's the thing for me, as a really geeky, nerdy guy, I've never been tempted to perform drag in that way and in the way that it was presented to me. I think queens like Sasha Velour, Jinx Monsoon, Ben de la Creme, some of the newer queens that are coming out, like and all of the queens I'm seeing in Media Meltdown, and some of the ones in Stream Queens, like this is the thing that I have been missing. This is the kind of drag that I have been waiting for to exist. And so like now finally I have a thing. So I am super excited that this exists, and that there are people like myself who may or may not have ever been interested because it just didn't reflect their interest. Like they weren't into the club popular music, or even like musicals, fine, but like really deep cut nerdy reference, So
yeah, we were having a discussion about musicals the other day, but we'll leave that for the future.
So tell me about Parliament. Tell me about your experience there.
So
what was it was like between Christmas and New Year's, right? It was like,
no, I think it was before Christmas.
was it before? Okay.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
I think it was
Franzia is from St. Petersburg, Florida, and I spent not New Year's of 2020, like 2019 going into 2020. Is that true?
That's correct. Yeah.
In there, and the Christmas prior to that. So we've gone back twice now during the holiday season, and I don't remember which trip it was. So it was either right around Christmas or New Year's, but we decided to make a trip to Orlando during that time. And, it was a strange vacation because we went to Parliament House, then we went to the Pulse Memorial, and then we went to Margaritaville on the Orlando.
And I think it was, I think it was in that order.
It was in that order.
The best order.
It was also, I want to point out that when we went to Parliament House, it was on a Tuesday.
It was on
because I'm fairly familiar with I feel so bad that I forgot their name, but the house that does a lot of performances there, Creature House.
Wait, that's Southern, right? I think they do stuff at or at Stonewall.
Wasn't at that bar. That bar was not
Stonewall
open or something. Or they didn't have a show going.
Okay, yeah, they didn't have a show going, but we kind of toured the rest of the premises.
No, I don't.
Wait, are we talking about a different place?
Okay, so we didn't go to the Creature House place because they didn't have a show that night, and it wasn't near us. So
that's right. Okay, so we went.
Franzia
to
was driving, and I was googling like best gay bars in Orlando, and Parliament House was number one. So we went over there, but it was very surreal because it was deserted for the most part. It was like late at night on a Tuesday. It was pretty slow.
Between like Christmas and New Year's or something.
And there was all these very gaudy, over the top, which I loved. That's not an insult. Christmas decorations everywhere. So we were walking into this very empty, like winter wonderland,
like Christmas apocalypse
at night. And we didn't know what the lay of the land was. We didn't realize it was a resort, as well as like not just one bar, but it's seemingly a few different bars.
It's like 4 bars in one complex with a courtyard and the motel and the pool. Yeah, all of that. Yeah.
So we ended up getting a drink in one of the ones that was closer to the front while there was bingo going on. And we just kind of sat in the corner and watched other people play bingo because they were already like deep into it.
It was kind of Lynchian though, because it was like, it was drag bingo happening. And it was like one of the first bars when you walk in, but they had like the overhead lights turned on. And you like, for anyone who's ever been in a club with the overhead lights turned on, it completely like takes you out of like the space.
Not a good look. Do you remember if the Queen hosting? Was there a Queen hosting bingo?
There was. I couldn't tell you her name.
Paul Roche, who was in the documentary called Pageant with Pork Chop.
That sounds right.
Chantel, she is a dear friend of mine. She hosted that forever. still hosts it, but over at Savoy in Orlando. Anyway, it is so funny you were there that night. My favorite memory that you will appreciate from Parliament House is after one of the major hurricanes came through Orlando and probably also Tampa St. Pete. We lost power at Parliament, and I had to go host like a trivia night, like a game night there.
Oh no!
And they had no power. It was a gay bar by candlelight. And one of my dear friends, also in Orlando, Addison Taylor, was going to be performing later that evening, doing drag by candlelight. And oh my God, it was so gothic and so amazing and so ridiculous.
I love that.
That's so cool.
That sounds like the best of a worst situation kind of thing.
It was creepy as fuck because it is dark there. It was nothing. But anyway,
when we were there, it was like a lot of lights were turned off, and so we were kind of like, "Are we like trespassing?" Because
we were like, "Is it open?"
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like anybody's here, but we did find the bingo, and there were bears in what seemed like the bear bar. But when we walked in out of drag, everyone kind of looked at us.
Yeah, they gave us a kind look. And then, like, I think asked us what we were what we were trying to find.
And I was like, maybe the bear one isn't for us. In San Francisco, nobody cares. It seems like they're just like whatever. But these bears were like, no, we're having our club in this bar, and so we went over to the bingo one.
Orlando is disappointing in that the bears like to stay very bear, and some of us are like, we'd rather be with the drag and the club kids. We don't care. So I'm glad to hear San Francisco is not like that. So let's get back to, I mean, I won't talk about, Orlando forever, and Florida, of course, but you guys, I want to know like the idea of the production elements and what you've brought into it. Like, it brings me back to how RuPaul started, not maybe the beginning of her stuff, but like Pickle Surprise. And a lot of people who know of Ru now do not know of that and her bizarre days.
That's the time when I liked her.
Exactly.
Give me some Pickle Surprise. Give me some Star Booty.
Star Booty. I just introduced my boyfriend to that. And I love that you are bringing back what I was always attracted to about drag was the video performance, bizarre, short, all of that has largely been lost in the noise of Drag Race, So, was that something? So, Star Booty, Pickle Surprise, I'm guessing, like all of that sort of also feeds into Media Meltdown.
I don't think you've ever seen.
I've never seen any of that. I have a very like storied background, and I really was introduced to drag kind of through Piranha. But I'm playing catch up on a lot of it.
I'll talk a little bit about my origins because I do feel like that can then lead into it. So as far as like I feel like an underground kind of movie cinema quality that has always been very at the forefront of my drag. When I started, I was part of a Rocky Horror Shadowcast for a little while, and I played Columbia. And so there was that tie-in between I wasn't really thinking about doing drag at that time. I didn't think that that's what I was doing. It was just like, I'm paying homage to kind of this cult film. And then I moved to San Francisco and shortly thereafter met and started working with Peaches Christ, who also does a lot of cult movie parody shows. She started doing them at the Bridge. By the time I started working with her, it was primarily at the Victoria and at the Castro. But we were doing these very low budget kind of fun short film stuff and these stage shows that would pay tribute to these trashy films. And Peaches is also a filmmaker. She made a movie called All About Evil, which is how I met her. I started working with a theater company called Thrill Peddlers who worked with the Surviving Coquettes. They were a hippie drag queen troupe back in the late 60s or early 70s. And they would take a bunch of acid, throw some glitter and wild costumes on, and then go do also stage shows that were based off of movies. Now, their references were more from like the 20s and 50s, but this like spirit of parodying cinema and paying loving homage to like weird cult cinema was very kind of entrenched in my early drag. And so I feel like that kind of led to part of Media Meltdown, but the idea of doing these fun, more playful kind of like skits and sketches came out of that. And so like when we do our online show, we usually have some kind of shtick involved. I know you just watched Modern Art. And for that one, you participated. We're having people call in or send us requests for paintings or drawings that we would do live on air. We were creating modern art, but we did like game shows, a drag show.
Oh, that was such
a while
blast.
back. And Franzia and I set up a game show with the audience where there were real prizes. And at the end, I got slimed like in a Media Meltdown show. Or like in a Nickelodeon show.
It was a chunky slime.
Though. We did PBS drag show where we had people calling in telethon style to talk to us.
Which is actually where we found one of I would say our most consistently booked performers, Obsidian Absurd.
She did the David Hockney number and was in Dune. She played Fade.
She called into us for our anniversary show and was just so kind and complimentary. And then we looked her up on Instagram, and she only had like 300 followers, but was turning these incredible looks. Yeah. So,
but I work in theater for a living primarily, and in film production, and I knew a lot about event planning. I knew a lot about putting on a show. When we started this, Franzia you were decor. Franzia works for a balloon company for a while and is really crafty. Well, you did. I mean, that played into it at the beginning.
I worked for a bespoke balloon decor company.
That's very specific.
But you also have access to a lot of like machinery and stuff that you would use to build like crazy decor pieces.
I have a fabrication background, so which played into a lot of my like early drag, but like I have access. I'm very lucky to have like access to a full wood shop and a full metal shop and like 3D printers and laser cutters, and I'm like operator trained on all of them. So I was able to like really like we could have a vision and then really execute it the way we wanted to.
That's so even powerful. When I mean, like it's a privilege as well as just it's amazing to have that experience to draw on. And it sounds like you both bring your respective like backgrounds and your talents together to produce the show, which is so awesome that like you had that synergy. It's neat to see a partnership that works and draws from each other's strengths.
One of our earliest shows was WrestleMania, a drag show, and that one was still when we were live. And Franzia built a wrestling ring in the middle of a bar. Yeah. And we made everybody stand on the outside of the ring, and we hosted from up top as if we were commentators, and we had a sign girl coming through in a bikini holding up signs for the performers.
And that show got really intense too, because like we had the performers paired off. So like they were doing numbers, but it was like they were fighting as part of the numbers.
We'd book two performers we booked more than two performers, but we'd have them the choice of who they wanted to pair off with. And we did it as a versus match. Eventually, our sign girl ended up smashing her sign over the winner and took the WWE belt for herself. But that kind of more theatrical, immersive experience, fueled by Franzia's then decor abilities, really took our show to that level when we were live. But then going into quarantine, Franzia is also amazing with tech and was able to take some of those ideas that we had and transition them to our live show. So like when we did Talking Animal Movies, a drag show, she would have images of people's pets that they had sent in over our face, and we would do impressions of them. And that kind of thing, the call-ins over the computer while we're streaming live. I wouldn't have known how to set that up, but these are things that like you've been great about, and we've been able to combine some of those more theatrical, immersive ideas with your actual talent.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is how. Oh, and by the way, that wrestling video, at least part of that show, is on YouTube. I did find it.
Oh, really?
Epic.
Oh, hell yeah!
I had no idea.
It's up there. It's epic. It's great. I also saw Piranha, your Black Parade number, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Being a huge fan.
That number was great.
I was not a part of Media Meltdown, but I did have a good time with that number.
And then I also saw your short film where you did, I forgot the song, but it's like a Dracula sort of short film.
Was that the Keanu Reeves?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
where
when
I
we
was
did
where I
Keanu-
was Dracula.
Yes.
Yeah, when we did Keanu Reeves, the drag show, my number was as his character in that. And
Perfect.
Franzia was my Dracula, and we got to do some fun stuff with that number, actually.
That was a fun one. I liked that.
I was just mining YouTube for gold and I found those and I loved it. I do want to go back real quick to the chat because I feel like I've missed so many
please,
people
of course.
I try to go with people who haven't been focused on the vanilla meringue. Love
Vanilla.
Hi.
Love to seeing these weirdo angels get the attention they deserve. Thanks for the great interview. I fully endorse and agree with that. I'm so energized for the Cyberpunk 2077 show.
Hell yeah. It'll come.
It's been asked for so many times. We haven't played it yet.
Holographic, of course, continues with all of the great comments. What do you think? My friend in Chicago who got me introduced to some of the amazing Chicago drag talent, Peter, is also like in love with you guys now. So that is awesome. And I'm not surprised.
Oh, Peter messaged us. Are you also a performer or no?
I don't think Peter is a performer, but I don't know if Peter's done drag. I should know this.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, we're still open to it if you have an idea.
And then again, Matt, Shrekstice, not Shrekmiss, which I screwed up. Shrekstice made his heart grow three sizes larger.
I'm so glad.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people here. Oh, and so this is also, I believe, Peter from his Twitch handle.
Post-apocalyptic Twig 69 is such an incredible username.
Oh my god, incredible.
What else? Holographics, just I love all of the comments in this. So dancey now. I love it. NorCal Gamer loved the Studio 51, and I also enjoyed it because it was spacey and space theme. I don't know if it wasn't like Cosmos theme, I don't think, but it felt very.
No, it's more like general alien vibes, kind
of. More holographic, of course, and then Peter is also a Floridian, so he knows and loves St. Pete, as do I. When you mentioned the Dolly Museum, that is one of the things I probably missed going back to. I went there once when I was really young, didn't appreciate it whatsoever. I need to go back. If it's one of the few things in Florida I want to go back for, a pub sub and the Dolly Museum, right?
Oh my God, don't even. We're not going to start on it. We're not going to start on it. We're not going to.
No, I want to know. It's
a Subway from Publix, which you've been to.
Oh, I've had that. I agree. Yeah, I didn't know it had a cool nickname. I was imagining a sub from like a actual bar.
What does Matt say? Drag walks this fine line between rebellion and its own flavor of beauty, fashion, conformity. So I'm thrilled when artists like you inject much needed irreverence and disruption to the medium. Absolutely. Yes, experiment. Early MTV. Absolutely.
MTV.
Absolutely.
That's what we are.
Totally. That's also a big influence. I have so many visual flashes of just watching MTV as a kid. I don't remember any stories from any shows or anything I watched, but Aeon Flux was that, and everything from Liquid Television was definitely huge on me as a kid.
Oh, Liquid Television is so influential, and the Adult Swim, early days of Adult Swim, although some of the stuff is huge. Of course, if you had Bespoke Balloon Decor Company on your bingo card, you just won. Absolutely. Oh, Holographic, you're so kind to and I mean, there you go, right there, and personal endorsement by Holographic, most knowledgeable and multi-talented people. I don't know what you're reacting to with that. Keep going. Oh yeah, Peter does love wrestling. This is true. I'm glad that was brought up. So yeah, Denali just uploaded Chicago Drag Excellence. Great.
Excellent. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It was really amazing.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, you should check it out.
What I appreciate about that is Chicago does have a very tight-knit drag community, and Denali shares her stage and her platform with many of the queens, one of which I believe performed at the Unbothered show this weekend from Stream Queen. So that was really one of the drag kings from that. So yeah, caught up on the comments. So let's talk about the upcoming theme for your show. I have a graphic. I don't know if this is going to work because I've never done this way, but I'm going to put it up and then we're going to talk about it because there's a lot to explain, I think, to some of our audience here.
I'm so ready to go. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, we got it.
It's mostly there. So Bethesda versus FromSoft. I knew Bethesda, obviously. I love Fallout. It's one of my favorite series, and all their other games, and Elder Scrolls and all that. For FromSoft, I had to look up. So, how did you come to this idea? What is FromSoft, and where did all this like mashup originate?
So this show's actually, it's been a wild ride because we've been wanting to do a video game show for a while now. There are a few sort of like critically untouched like media types that are left on our plate
for a nerd show.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not the biggest gamer, but I do game. Franzia is a bigger gamer. I'm like a big comic book nerd too, though. Like but neither of those are things that we've touched on in our show yet. Mm-hmm. So we've been thinking about ways to do it, but how do you make it Media Meltdown? There's a lot of video game drag that we see in other people's shows. It tends to be more Nintendo or Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
and so,
which we like, but there's the kind of thing where those shows are being done, and they're being done very well. And so we don't want to kind of reproduce something that like someone else is already providing and doing a great job of it. And also I feel like our shows tend to skew a little bit more kind of like we almost always look for an effect where people see the themes and they're like, huh, okay. Like,
and it takes a second and then they laugh, and hopefully.
Hopefully.
Or RSVP, either way.
And so we were thinking about games, and I'll also be completely honest, which is that like there's a lot of really toxic parts of gamer culture. And so we were kind of thinking like, how do we approach this? How do we give drag performers a prompt they can work with? And it actually started with FromSoft, which I'm a huge fan of FromSoft. I think they're like a really revolutionary game studio. And
say some of their games.
So the Souls games are the big FromSoft properties. So you have like Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Demon Souls, which was recently re-released. And kind of like the hype from that was something that inspired me. I was like, oh, there's so much. Like I remember watching a lot of Demon Souls playthroughs several years back and being like, this game is so gorgeous and so intricate and like really compelling, like philosophically, but also just really fun. And it being re-released, I was like, oh man, there's so much hype around the re-release of Demon Souls. This might be a good time to like get people on board. But then Piranha, rightfully so, because we always kind of like talk about these things probably too much before we dive into them, was like, I don't know a ton about FromSoft. And I asked a few of my friends who are performers, and they were like, yeah, it doesn't like, a few of them were like instantly like, yeah, I got it. And then, but more of them were like, I don't really know what I would do. Like, I don't have a good grasp of that game. So I was like, what can we pair it with to give people a broader kind of prompt?
And we wanted to have a studio that felt spiritually akin to it, that they weren't making radically different types of games. And Bethesda came up because they have a lot of, what do I say?
They're like action adventure RPG games. Is kind of how I describe them.
Sorry. I was going to say it makes sense to kind of bind it and kind of give it like that, like complementary flavor compared to like Pokemon meets FromSoft or whatever. Like, it makes sense. I mean, I'm
still waiting for the Digimon drag show though. If anyone wants to do that one,
I want Online meets Pokemon, or some really deep old weird PC gaming meets like modern Pokemon Go or something. That's where I would.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, because I was really hoping that someone for Bethesda would do like an OG, but like a Elder Scrolls like Arena, like an super old like DOS based kind of like Elder Scrolls. I might end up doing something like akin to that, but I'm not gonna go too deep into that because I don't want to commit on air. But sorry, what were you gonna say? I got distracted.
I was just gonna riff off of what you were saying. I do think that sometimes in opposition there is a funny joke. This theme did not end up actually happening, but at one point we were talking about doing Edgar Allan Poe versus Castlevania as a live show. And I thought that was so hilarious.
I think it's funny too.
Because it was like Edgar Allan Poe being an actual historical figure of Gothic horror versus like Castlevania, which is total opposite of that. It's modern, it's video games, it's looking back
super campy,
on yeah. And I thought like in the opposition there can be comedy, but I can't. There's nothing opposite of FromSoft that I felt like was comical.
Well, what I do like, let me pitch you all on this. FromSoft games are quite serious. They have a sense of humor about themselves, but they have very serious narratives, and they ask like fairly serious philosophical questions, and they're hard. I think that's one of the most notorious things about FromSoft games, is that they're really difficult. I've personally never beaten a FromSoft game, so
that's what my whole number's about, because I'm not as much of a gamer, and the one game that I know from FromSoft I've been trying to beat now for like a year. And I'm not past the first boss, y'all. I took a break, but I'm coming, and I'm working really hard on it now as the show approaches. But
now, on the flip side, Bethesda games are like have this huge culture around them. I feel like because the games are kind of broken. Okay, Bethesda fans, don't come for me, but just the fact that you have like the console commands that just open up such like a wealth of like fan reinterpretation and like all the mods stacked on mods, and like you've got like naked people running around because you put on the naked people mod, and like, and you know, and it's just like this total, like, I hate to say perversion of artistic intent, but it's like
they made the game that way.
They left the console commands in, so it is what it is. But for me, like playing a Bethesda game has always been just a very kind of like fun and like raucous experience, and it's just like, you're just kind of like I remember playing Morrowind when I was a kid, and like turning like off the collision in the command and just like walking through all the walls and like stealing everything and then like destroying every character in the game, and it was just a total disaster. And so I kind of like this super chaotic RPG energy coming from a lot of Bethesda titles, with this very sort of like heady, intense energy coming from a FromSoft title. That's my pitch. Is that going to happen in our show? Probably not.
We'll see.
We'll
Sometimes
see.
the performers surprise us and they pick up on themes that we hadn't considered.
Yeah.
But
Holly Graphic has been riffing on this. I love it.
Holly's in our show, so doing a FromSoft game, and I'm very excited about this.
I'm stoked. So I love how soft gamer you are, Piranha, of course. And then I have run on Bethany and stuff. If someone please could use that as a drag name, that would make me.
Oh my gosh!
If nobody else does.
Also, you struck a nerve. A lot of Flame On has been devoted to comic books, so that's in a before time. That's what we did a lot more. We've moved away from a bit. And my other show, Comic Bears, of course, which James and Matt are both have been a part of, love comic books. So the fact that you're a comic nerd, Piranha, we're gonna have to talk. We're gonna have to do some kind of drag comic book discussion at some point.
Man, let's do it.
And Franzia as well, like gaming and deep nerd dives. I feel like didn't you did a drag reading of Stanislaw Lem from Stanislaw?
Yeah.
Like, I have never in my life conceived of that existing. Like,
my degree's in Russian literature, so I was like, I gotta get something out of this. But like, yeah, like Stanislaw Lem's like a huge science fiction influence on me. Just the sort of like comedy in his prose is super funny. But
we early on in quarantine had a show called Dramatic Readings from Space. We had wanted to do as a live show in San Francisco, not necessarily as Media Meltdown, but we had been talking about doing Waiting for Godot in Space.
I was going to say, can we talk about Waiting for Godot in Space?
Yeah,
because
we were thinking about, well, now that everything's digital, we can do it filmed. And
we were like, we're just gonna do like a reading of Waiting for Godot, but like in alien makeup
/ and or make up our own bits where we are waiting for a lot longer for Godot.
Millennia have passed.
Yeah,
it was not completely worked out, and it never ended up happening yet.
Yeah.
But it did transform into Dramatic Readings from Space, and that series went on for a while. I was reading short stories. Franzia read the Stanislaw Lem. I read a book after that, and then we weren't pulling any viewers, so we ended up ending that one. But it was fun while it lasted.
It's a delightful spin-off of the traditional, now traditional drag queens reading, children's books, right? Sure. I love it. I think it should come back. We should. There's a way to make it work, I'm sure. James loves the idea of a Hellfire Club drag number, drag show theme. I 100% get it, and I think that would be fun. But I feel like somebody by now has done that. Like even if they weren't intending it, they've done it. And yeah,
I've definitely seen a lot of people do Emma Frost looks, but I don't know that I've seen much of the rest of the Hellfire Club represented.
I can represent Sebastian's Shaw at my ripe age, I feel like, but I don't know if I want. It's conflicting, right? He's kind of gross.
The
Matt,
fashions are great, though. The Hellfire Club is great because of their looks.
If anyone wants to find out like the subverted history of the X-Men, go read about Chris Claremont and his whole BDSM life experiences and how that informed Hellfire Club. It's solid reading. Piranha is a comic nerd, yes. Kool-Aid Man right through the living room. Matt, yeah, we're all comic nerds. I totally agree. I'm so happy you've been on this. I do have one more question, although I was trying to do it in an hour. Hope we can do one more question for you guys.
Oh yeah, totally.
When the world opens back up, this is the mythical question everybody's been discussing, right? Because everybody's very excited. How do you see Media Meltdown evolving? Do you see like going back to the bars and doing shows and keeping your stream? What is your vision for what that looks like?
So we've talked about this quite a bit, and it's so hard to make any sort of actual plans around it. And I think a lot of it's going to be dictated by what audiences want. If we
right now we have no intentions to end our digital programming.
Yes.
And we have no intention to not do live events. How often we're doing those things will be dictated by the audience.
Yeah.
It's possible that what was previously a monthly IRL party might now become quarterly. Or if nobody's watching our digital shows anymore because everybody wants to go back out and party live in person, we might pull back on it. But I think that digital drag has been really great in that it has opened up so many more doors for the possibilities of artistic expression. And there's some things that are harder to do, right? Like there are some performances that do work better on stage. But now if there continues to be an audience for both the film content and the live content, I think we are going to do everything that we can to satisfy both worlds.
And what is especially nice about the digital shows, which is why we're really committed to keeping them going as long as the audience is still there, is that, the venue that we were in before quarantine had like a fire marshal capacity of like 97 people. So it's like, even if our show is like going through the roof at this venue, that's the max amount of people we're ever going to get. And
if we stay there.
And what's nice about online is that it's like, like when you do live shows, for any of you watching who have, like you want to move up to a bigger venue, but you have to sign a contract and then you're on the hook for a lot of money. And then there's like all these other logistical considerations. What's so nice about digital is that like we can just put it out there kind of on our own terms with our own skill set in timing that works for us. And it can grow without us having to worry about those things. But the flip side is that like we like doing it live. We like seeing people and talking to them and performing to them. So yeah, it's like kind of like our placeholder plan is like probably doing a quarterly live show, but having it be bigger than what we were doing before, having it be like a real immersive theatrical experience.
Very likely not at the same venue. So we'll probably go somewhere else and then do everything that we can to make the quarterly a really big blowout.
Yeah.
But we're definitely not giving up filmed content. We've got a lot of plans for stuff that we want to produce coming up, more original shorts. We're in the process of writing a movie, so stay tuned for that.
Oh, awesome.
And we are also, because you brought up Dramatic Readings from Space, we are probably also going to reboot, moving into the new year, some of our other programming, coming into February and March. So if you follow us on any social media, you can stay abreast of that. And I'm really excited because like we kind of had an idea to reboot one show that we're both very, very stoked about. So.
Totally.
That's so cool. I'm so glad you're not giving up on this platform. I really think this could be something that you parlay into bigger and bigger shows in real life. Maybe even like I would come down to San Francisco to see a real show. I mean, come on, like a lot of people I feel like would come to San Francisco to see a bigger version of what they experience online. So I'm really excited to hear about all these plans, and I'm so excited people are finding out about you. I'm going to put this up there because this is very important. If you're on Twitch or if you're not, join Twitch. Like, subscribe, all of the things. I think it's just follow and then subscribe. I'll get these straight eventually. Media Meltdown on there. So much good content, and I love that it reminds me. That's the big thing when you follow, you get that reminder. It really helps.
Totally.
And then the link tree, all the other social media that you're on, instead of listing them out, if you just go to the link tree, or you want to perform in an upcoming show, oh my God, there's so many possibilities there. Go to that forum. It's off the link tree. Link if you do the link tree, whatever shortening, Media Meltdown. No, that's spelled right. Yeah, it's spelled. It looks weird to my brain. I'm like, there's a vowel missing. There it is. Media Meltdown on Linktree will get you there. Is there anything else besides Bethesda versus FromSoft, which is here? Let me see if I can uncover that. There's a date there. Yes, February 21st, 7:30 Pacific. Media Meltdown on Twitch.
Yeah, if you follow us on social media at Media Meltdown SF on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you'll keep abreast of all of our upcoming stuff. On Facebook, we do have the event live for Bethesda versus FromSoft. So if you want to go RSVP, you'll get notified as that approaches. Tomorrow night on our stream, we do have Cinema 420 like every Tuesday, and we're in the middle of our video game movie block leading up to the Bethesda versus FromSoft show. So we are watching Mortal Kombat tomorrow night. 7:30 p.m. Pacific.
And I'm trying to get it set up where our pre-shows are normally like a mashup that Piranha makes. I'm trying to get it set up, though, for our pre-show can be us actually playing Mortal Kombat. So
I'm going to kick your ass.
That's not true. That's absolutely not true.
Well, Piranha and Franzia, thank you so much for joining us. I've been looking forward to this for such a long time. I'm so glad to get you on. I'm so excited for more Media Meltdown. Please, everyone listening and watching on this lovely show, please go follow them and show up. And if you're on our Flame on Discord, I think the happy hour tradition is going to keep going. I'll send both of you invites too. I mean, it's another
please,
Discord.
I was going to ask, yeah.
If you want, we have such a fun little time, and I'm excited to see more from you both. So thank you again so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's been a pleasure.